How do you love yourself unconditionally? On this video, I'm going to share with you the biggest obstacles that stop people from doing that and what you can do about it. Over centuries of recorded human history, enlightened spiritual masters, teachers, ministers, rabbis, village elders have all pointed towards unconditional self-love as one of the gateways to the crowning human experience. But what is unconditional love, and why do so many people never get to that state? Essentially, loving oneself unconditionally is all about self-acceptance. But if it sounds that easy, what stops so many people from getting there? Well, let's go back to what our earliest memory is as a human being for most people, or at least when it is. See, when a baby is born, it's loved unconditionally. It can do no wrong. We don't judge a baby for keeping you awake at night. It may be inconvenient, but you don't stop loving a baby because it's crying at 3 in the morning. Now, if you're feeding the baby and it throws up on your new suit just before you go to a job interview, yes, it's inconvenient, but you don't blame a baby. It's what babies do. So babies are loved unconditionally for the first part of their life. In fact, if they're not loved unconditionally, touched or held or made to feel accepted, they suffer from something called failure to thrive syndrome. It's wired into our DNA to be accepted and loved at a young age. However, when a baby hits round about 18 months to 2 years old, and there's a starting point where there is, in the parent's mind, an ability to communicate. In other words, it's now a two-way street. There is a model that clicks in around that imposes on the child to behave a certain way, otherwise the perception is love is withdrawn. I say perception because, of course, the parents don't stop loving the child, but they're trying to teach the child to behave in a certain way that, as parents, they feel will best serve the child. Like, don't put your finger in a socket, don't cross the road. And most of the time, it's coming from the negative. In fact, many parents will tell you the first word a baby learns is no, because it's what it hears so often, so many times. But if you take that and extrapolate that forward to our earliest memory, for many people is around about 4 or 5 years old. At that point, we've already had years of training that love is conditional. In other words, if we behave a certain way, mummy, daddy, or our caregivers are happy. If we don't behave a certain way, then they're unhappy. And again, it doesn't matter whether the love is actually withdrawn or not. Very rarely is that the case, but in the perception of the child's mind, perception is reality. So if mummy or daddy is angry because they did something, they feel unloved, and therefore they learn that they have to adapt their behavior in order to get approval, connection, validation, and acceptance. And most of us then grow up and spend the rest of our life projecting that model of the world into our own relationships, but worse, projecting it into the relationship we have with the mirror. Have you ever noticed when somebody stands in front of the mirror, the first thing they notice is what's wrong with themselves, not what's right with themselves? When was the last time you stood in front of a mirror and thought, wow, I look so incredible, I'm marvelous, I'm flawless, rather than, oh no, let's go and have Botox, let's go and get on a tan bed, let's go to the gym and try to build my muscles, let's go try to shift myself, not from a place of wanting to be better, but from a place of avoiding the fear of not being enough. And is it any wonder why we struggle with self-love or self-acceptance? Not only are we conditioned by a model of parenting that was imposed on us growing up, not saying it's right or wrong, it's just what it is, but it convinces us that we're not good enough unless, but then we're socially conditioned by the industries of cosmetics, fashion, fitness, all vanity related rather than following our greatness related. And we sit there on antidepressants in one of the greatest times in human history, looking probably the best we've ever looked in human history, miserable because we're still not at some mythical place where we can accept ourselves. So how do we change that? Well, one of the very first things to understand is that no matter what anybody said, did, suggested, or gave you as a projection of their judgment or model of the world, nobody but nobody has the right to tell you you're not good enough. And if that was your perception of what they were giving, then let it go. Learn to forgive them, give it up. Don't carry that with you, because most people spend their entire life trying to be somebody because somebody else said or did, or worse, they thought somebody else said or did when they never did, something that made you feel less than. Give you an example. Little Brian's 5, 6 years old, he's in school, he's in geography class, and the teacher asks a question. Hey class, where is Egypt? And little Brian raised his hand, he's all excited, and teacher picks on Brian and says, Brian, where's Egypt? He says, here on page 55 of the geography book. And the teacher is so disappointed. He's like, oh, wiser guy, you know something? You're stupid, go sit in the corner. Little Brian suddenly experiences what we call a significant emotional event, where he's experiencing the emotions of shame, not good enough, ridicule, judgment, all of that, which creates a reaction, an emotion, and he now owns that as I'm not good enough. And what does little Brian do? Well, he could do one of many things. He could either kick back against all the classmates that were laughing at him, and in that moment, if they were to back down, he may link anger as a way to restore his sense of significance, and Mr. Angry is born. And then 25 years later, everyone says, oh, don't worry about Brian, he's just got a temper. No, Brian is just running an emotional pattern that he learned as a kid to try to restore his own sense of ego. That's it. Or little Brian may turn around and say, wow, the teacher didn't like me, but the rest of the students laughed. So I get my connection from being the class clown. So he becomes a comedian. He's the one always trying to tell the jokes and make people laugh, all to cover up the insecurities that he wasn't good enough. Or he may turn around and say, I'll prove the teacher wrong, and he'll go studying twice as hard, and he'll stay in academia, get every degree on the wall, but no amount of paper on the wall can ever paste over the cracks of an empty heart that has its basis in the fear of being judged. No amount of degrees will ever make little Brian feel smart enough. You're starting to get the point. We have so much in our history that we buy into just because somebody else said or did something that we took on and never then questioned. My question to you is, what beliefs do you have about yourself that you haven't looked at for maybe decades, that you're still carrying around unconsciously and acting out this pattern to try to retain your own sense of self or accept yourself or avoid the fear that you're not good enough? The second we start looking there, we can start to crack the shell on that egg and really let go of some of that old stuff. I mean, you wouldn't walk around in clothes that you wore when you were 6 to 10 years old right now. You'd look pretty silly. But most people spend their life walking around with belief systems that they had when they were 6 to 10 years old. Now, the next thing to really understand is that every single one of us is unique. Now, let me ask you a question. Why is platinum so valuable? Why is it so valuable? It looks exactly the same as silver, yet it costs 50 times more. Ever thought of that? Well, it's pretty simple. It's because it is rare. In fact, platinum isn't even native to the Earth. It comes on through asteroids hitting the Earth. That's why there's so little of it. It's not native to this planet. But if you were to think about you, you're rare. You're rarer than platinum. There's only one of you. Everything that you look in the mirror and don't appreciate, that you label as a flaw, if you were to see that as your uniqueness, you would have such a different sense of self. My friends, if you're comparing yourself to something that you're not from a place of inferiority, you will never be able to have enough to get over that. Just like little Brian will never be able to get enough degrees on the wall to feel smart enough inside. Do you understand? Who you are is incredible. You're unique. You're made of stardust, for goodness sake. And when you start to see your flaws as your unique gifts, you turn them into a superpower and have total self-acceptance. Accept yourself as you are right now, perfect. I don't care if you're broke. I don't care if you're overweight. I don't care if you're single because your partner has walked out. Where you are right now, the second you can come to acceptance, you have the strength to be able to move forward and change what it is that you don't want. And that leads us to one of the biggest truisms in life, which is complaining about your current circumstances or flaws or insecurities or history or labels that people have given you is the glue that keeps you tied to them. It's like walking into an art gallery. If you look around and you say, I don't like the stuff on the wall here. I demand to see the curator and I demand he takes it down. Because you're looking into the art gallery of life and you don't like your body and you don't like, your eyes aren't the same shape and your nose is crooked and my bank balance is low, and look at all this artwork in the gallery of my life. I hate it. Come and change it. Well, you've got no right to do that. If you tried to do that in a real art gallery or the Guggenheim or something like the Louvre, security would come and throw you out. See, if you don't like the artwork on the wall, stop complaining about it and realize that you have no right to change anything that is. You have every right to go and choose something different. You can walk into a different room in that art gallery and go look at Van Gogh. If you don't like Picasso, you get the idea. But standing in a room saying, I hate this artwork, it needs to change, is not going to do anything than you have more judgment about the stuff in your life that you don't like. And when you come to accept yourself where you are right now as absolutely perfect on the journey of who you're becoming, you can choose to move forward from a completely different energy. Now, if you want an example of something that accepts themselves for exactly as they are, let me show you this little guy. Yeah? This is Archie. Now, I have never seen Archie walk up to a mirror and get depressed about how he looks. I've never seen Archie look at another dog and think, damn, I wish I was a Dalmatian. I've never seen Archie sit there and get depressed because somebody said that they didn't like him or looked at him in a certain way. And if it does affect him, guess what? 20 seconds later, give me a kiss. Thank you. Right? He's out and living his life in the moment. There's so much we can learn from dogs when it comes to how to love ourselves unconditionally. But let's just sum up. A, your parents did the best they could. We didn't come as an owner's manual with kids, and who are parents but kids with a few more years on them trying to figure it out the best that they can. Second, you're being conditioned by society not for your own benefit, but for the benefit of different industries to believe that you're not good enough unless you buy fill in the blank, unless you smell a different way, unless you look a different way, unless your body shape is a different way. Now, give it up and realize that you are perfect. Nobody has the right to tell you that you aren't good enough. You are rarer than platinum. And above all, when you accept yourself unconditionally for who you are as perfect right now, you have a completely different energy walking through life. You walk into a room and people will notice there is a different energy about you, a different spark. You can't be pushed, you can't be pulled, you can't be cajoled, you can't be influenced from a place of inferiority because you own yourself, you know yourself. And when you come from that place of total self-acceptance, life opens up at an entirely different level. Learn to forgive the people who you think judged you. Learn to accept your insecurities as your superpowers and your uniqueness. Learn to come from a place of wanting to improve myself because it's part of the growth of life rather than I don't like where I'm at. And I promise you, you will learn to love yourself. And when you do that, you'll come to the conclusion that what you were searching for love, was there all along. See how most people live their life with self-love? It's like being a dark room holding a flashlight, shining it desperately trying to find the light. It's like, where's the light? I can't find it. It's got to be here somewhere. Looking outside of themselves for something they had all along. My friends, you can never be loved more than you love yourself. And that starts with accepting yourself. It starts with forgiveness. And it starts with knowing that who you are is absolutely beautiful and perfect, regardless of what anyone else ever said. I love you. I look forward to seeing you on another video very soon. Hi, this is Peter. I really hope you enjoyed that video, and I would love for you to subscribe to this channel, click the bell for the notifications, and leave a comment below if you're so moved. And if you really want to share the love, or if you think somebody would like this message and it would help them, share it with a friend, and let's hope we can spread a little bit of love around the world and make it a better place.